Recently, I got early access to an upcoming update for a game called City 20. It's a post-apocalyptic sandbox that doesn't hold your hand much, and after a few hours with it, I can say that's both its biggest strength and probably its biggest weakness. So the real question is, does that freedom actually make the game better, or just more frustrating? Quick disclaimer, I was given a key in early access to this update ahead of the release. That said, everything here is based on my own experience after about 3 hours with the game. City 20 is built around the idea of being a true sandbox. There's a light tutorial at the start that gives you the basics, but after that, the game mostly steps back and lets you figure things out on your own. There's very little direction, not much handholding, and you're expected to learn by exploring and experimenting. When I first started playing, I honestly had no idea what I was supposed to be doing, just running around, picking up items, trying to complete small requests from NPCs, and experimenting to see what worked. There's definitely a system underneath everything, it just doesn't really explain itself. Combat itself is actually fine. It's a little different with how you enter combat stance, but once you get used to it, it works. I did get completely destroyed a couple times early on, but that felt more like I wasn't prepared rather than the system being broken. Crafting and progression are tied a lot to exploration. You'll find items and blueprints by interacting with the world, breaking objects, opening containers, and upgrading your tools. For example, early on you can break something like a wooden chair, but you won't be able to open tougher containers like a toolbox until you get something like a hammer or an axe. So the systems are there, you just need to uncover them as you go. As I kept playing, things started to open up a bit. I was able to earn money and gain access to my own building. Even found a new area that required a pretty large amount of cash to enter. So there is progression and there are goals, they're just not clearly defined. But where the game started to feel a bit limited was in the quest design. Most of what I ran into were pretty basic tasks: find this item and deliver it. There was one moment that stood out though. I was given a quest to extort someone for money. The first time I handled it aggressively, which worked, but it gave me a bounty and I ended up getting beat down by the other NPCs. The second time I tried to handle it peacefully, and it basically just dead ended. There was no real way to negotiate or change the outcome. Even going back to the quest giver didn't add anything new. They just repeated the same objective. Moments like that feel like they should have more depth than they currently do. Another thing I started to notice is how the game handles progression over time. A lot of the challenge comes from figuring out how things work in the first place. For example, I had a task to make grilled mushrooms, but I couldn't figure out how to start a fire. So a lot of time was spent trying to understand the system. But once you do figure something out, it becomes pretty straightforward to repeat, and that's where it starts to feel like the game has a lot of time spent searching for answers, but not as much depth once you have them. It almost feels like there's a few hours of actual content stretched out by the process of figuring everything out. So, where does that leave City 20? I think it does succeed at being a sandbox. It gives you freedom, it doesn't guide you much, and it lets you approach things your own way. But right now, it also feels like a foundation. The systems are there and the ideas are there, but a lot of it still feels a bit shallow or underdeveloped. I do want to say, I appreciate the developers giving me early access to check this out ahead of the update. If you're someone who enjoys figuring things out on your own and creating your own goals, there's definitely something here. But if you're looking for structure, direction, or deeper interactions, this might not fully land for you, at least not yet. City 20 has a lot of potential. It just feels like it's still on the way to becoming what it could be. Thanks for watching. I'm the Pixel Pundit, and I'll see you in the next one.